Hello, I'm Herm Gailey. We're here today to talk about different headgear options for your young horse when you're starting him under saddle. There are others that I'm not really going to get into in detail. These are 4 different options that I've worked with a lot myself that work for me. So we'll sort of go through them real quickly. This is what you call a loping hackamore. It's interesting, it's actually made from one piece of rope that's taken apart and rebraided here, and then the noseband has a little bit of soft rawhide on top of it just to give it a little more form. It goes with a feodor knot under the jaw to keep this from folding forward against the horse's lower lip. A similar rig would be this hackamore, which is a little harder lay rope and a little bigger diameter noseband. Third option that I've started plenty of colts with, and a lot of people do, is just a halter. And you know, there are things you'll want to do to maybe retool this for the riding as opposed to leading, but absolutely a viable option. And the fourth alternative, which I over the years have probably used more times than anything else, is simply a snaffle bit. At the end of the day, that's the old gold standard. Many colts have been started in snaffle bits. So let's go through these in a little more detail one by one. I'll start with the rig that I am planning on starting my young horses with this year. This is referred to as a loping hackamore. It is not a bosal. It is not a side pull. It's very soft, very forgiving. It is relatively close to a halter in some ways, but if you look at the way it's tied at the bottom, you see the horizontal piece gets you off to the side, and because of the diameter of the noseband lying relatively close to the horse's lower chin, you're going to have more of a lateral effect with this than you will with, say, a bosal or even the other hackamore we'll talk about. But what it doesn't do is the reason why I don't favor side pulls. A lot of people will use a side pull, which is similar to this, but it has a ring right up here, right around the headstall loop, and you get a complete lateral pull. The problem to me is you get absolutely no vertical with that at all. You're sort of pulling on the sides of the horse's face no matter what you do. Where this, if you pull back, you get some vertical. If you pull to the side, you get mostly lateral. Now, I'm saying that as if I know all about this piece of equipment. This is the first one of these hackamores I've ever had. These will be the first young horses I've ever started with this. I've been doing groundwork in it. I like it. I like the feel of the reins. They're a good length. They're a good weight. You can get your hands around them. They're good for that early two-handed riding. So that's the way this works. And then, of course, it ties under the chin through this loop, and then it loops around, and that in turn surrounds that feodor loop, it's called, and you have a knot that will keep this suspended in such a way that it won't collapse forward under the horse's chin. And it takes a little bit of the weight off too, so that it's not just bearing down the whole time. I'm well satisfied. This was made by Dennis Moreland. He's a well-known craftsman and turns out some nice gear, and I've used his products from time to time in the past and liked them. This actually is a hackamore that I've started quite a number of colts in, and I was a little hesitant to try something else, but I wanted to experiment a little bit. This is actually one of Clinton Anderson's products, and what I've found with the things that I've bought from time to time from Clinton Anderson is the things he sells are overpriced, but they're high quality and they work, so they're not overpriced. This is basically a piece of hard lay rope, so that's very different from the other hackamore, that's stiff, you will get a lot of feel. Maybe sometimes a little more feel than you want, but it definitely gets you a little more traction with your young horse. What I don't completely like about this is the noseband loop is so big that there's virtually no contact down here unless you've got your horse really pulled, off to the side. You have one side that comes against. You don't have any contact down there if you're pulling back. It's all on the nose. Whereas this other hackamore will give you more of a universal feel off the whole piece of equipment. Having said this, I've used this on probably a dozen colts, never given me any reason to complain, but I was sort of born to experiment, so I'm going to keep experimenting. Like the other hackamore, it has the same Theodore knot setup. Even more important with this, because this is so very big, that it would immediately rotate forward and go under the horse's chin, which you don't want. So, good arrangement. This has some heavy sort of cotton poly reins on it. I actually have knots in the end because they were a little bit too long, and I found I like that okay. Makes them hang a little better when you cross them over your horse's neck. That weight keeps them from flopping around. So that's a good rig. My friend Melanie's going to be starting her 2-year-old, and she will probably either borrow this or use her halter on her colt. The third option, which is always viable, is just use a halter. I don't like to start a horse in a web halter. I just don't think there's enough feel there. So I will use a rope halter. I will remove the rope, lead rope, and I'll usually tie in here above that, but with a little wrap down through so your rope doesn't migrate up the halter. So it shortens the diameter a little bit, and it gives you more of a side-to-side pull. You can get a lot of feel with these. The other thing that I have done on several colts, and I actually was introduced to this long ago, in maybe '97, at a Ray Hunt clinic. He'd just have you get on with your lead rope off one side, steer them around that way, bend them around that way, flip it up over their head, steer them around the other way. He said it keeps you from pulling back with both hands when you got no damn reason to pull back with two hands, because he was a very definite individual. And that is true. The problem is you get a colt sort of doing snake tracks and you maybe want to correct him. You can't flip that fast. So other than the first ride or two, I don't favor riding with that single rein, one-way pull. It actually works rather well though for the first ride when you're just getting your horse to cover ground and carry weight. And then the other option here is the good old snaffle bit. You'll notice this is on a brow band headstall. I do not favor single ear headstalls on snaffle bits, particularly for colts. This also has two buckles, and I like to set it up so the buckles line up. I don't want one with the slack way down here and the other one way up there. Let's get them as perfectly balanced as we can. This is a Kyle tack headstall, like it. It also has the quick removal brass buckles that let you change it out in a heartbeat. And I've used these headstalls for 20 years or so, and I like them very much. The bit itself, actually I bought probably 15 years ago in Timonium, Maryland from Chris Cox, something he came up with, which is kind of a stroke of genius. This is a standard snaffle, except the rings don't rotate. It's a fixed ring. That means when you pull on the horse, that ring can't rotate into their mouth. It just is more of a side pull effect, and you can pull your horse laterally really well. There's one less moving part. It's a little bit more reassuring to a young horse who doesn't need a ton of moving parts. Has the joint in the center, but, and this was an important part of this design, if you look, there's quite a bit of bend, quite a bit of shape there. It's sort of mullined out. Because if this was a straight snaffle, like some snaffles are made very straight, that will work okay. In fact, can work well with a loose ring, but with this fixed ring, that's not going to work. It's going to be sticking out the side of their mouth because this doesn't have any slack in it. So that was an important part. The other thing that I like about this snaffle is it is sweet iron, as they say. It's a tool steel, so it has a sweet taste. But in the back, if you look carefully, you can see what I call tasters. And there are multiple strips or bars of copper applied to the back of the bit. That gives your horse a little moister mouth. Much better than a solid copper mouthpiece, which can deform or wears more easily generally than the mild grade steel or the sweet iron, as some people call it. Final thing that I put on just about all my snaffles is, instead of a chin strap, I put a piece of cord on. Then when I'm getting my horse used to the snaffle, I'll just snap a 14-foot lead rope onto that with a good size snap, and then I can do groundwork with my horse with the snaffle on and the reins tied up, and they'll feel a pull on this side. When that ring or the snap slides to that side, they'll feel on this side when it slides to the other side, instead of working them just on the bridle reins. Or you'll see some people using a Makati rein. The Makati rein is sort of it's a one-sided thing because it comes off the left. So when you're doing groundwork, I think it works well to the left, but to the right, you're really pulling on the other side of their, you're one step removed from direct contact. Where with this, it just slides over. Plus, this has the advantage, I would say the cost of that piece of very good quality cord is about 40 cents. And I like anything that you can put on a horse for under $1. And they're harder and harder to find things like that. You have to be careful how you tie your knot. You don't want a great big honking knot there, but those are pretty unobtrusive. I've never had that ring that you use to move your horse around or the rein hang up over those small knots that I have in there. So that's the setup. The other thing you'll see that's a little different, I have regular leather reins on this. These are 5/8 inch reins. They're 8 feet long. They have a weighted end. So if you need to move your horse around, you've got a little bit of a popper there. These particular ones are Schutz Brother reins. I also like the Keiltack reins in the same size. I favor myself these leather reins on a snaffle bit. I had a set of marine line reins similar to this lead rope. And then they had not a slobber strap, but it was just a kind of a water loop that it connected here. They were okay, but I don't get the same feel when you're getting to a horse's mouth with a rope attachment as I do with a set of leather reins. So I personally prefer the leather reins. Now you'll also see people starting horses in the side pull that we talked about a little, and rarely with a Bosal. There's some people can do that, but a Bosal is not a device you should really be pulling on a horse with, and inevitably when you're starting a colt, it's going to be a little crude from time to time. Go to that Bosal after you've been through the snaffle, not before. My personal opinion. As to one other thing on reins, we talked about Makati reins. I do not like any rein that has a loop on it. All due respect to some of the great horsemen that ride with Makati reins, I don't get the feel I want. I want my reins bridged. I want two separate reins with an end to each of them, a split rein. That's just the tradition I grew up in, let's say. So in that regard, I completely agree with something Ray Hunt said. He had, he rode with Makati reins. He also used a weighted saddle, which in those days none of us had really seen back here. And people were quizzing him on that. He said, well, there's a reason why I use this equipment. He said, it's what I grew up with and it's what I'm comfortable with. If you grew up with something different and you're comfortable with that, just stick with it. Now, of course, the next year I went back and you couldn't have counted the weighted saddles, but that's just because that's human nature. I agree. If it works for you, if it fits you, if it's comfortable for your horse, it's gonna work. So those are some thoughts on your initial headgear for your horse. Be interested to hear from anybody with other nominations or other thoughts on the things that we talked about today. For now, so long and thank you.